And welcome! Hey, it's 2014. This is the Genesee County Compassion Club show coming to you live from flinttalkradio.com and on ustream.tv. How you doing today? Welcome, Flint. It's all of 14 degrees outside. If it gets any warmer, John's going to be walking around in his bathing suit.
Yep, and suntan lotion.
Suntan lotion, that's right.
But you notice how dark, how bright it does get in winter times? Almost like blinding. Like, with all
They call that snow blindness.
Oh,
yeah.
I wear my sunglasses more in the winter than I do in the summer.
That actually is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yep. Obviously all the snow on the ground reflects the light back up. Boom, you're blind. So you got light coming to you from the ground and from the sun.
It's good. It's weird going out in the middle of the night, seeing there's so much light coming off of that snow that basically doesn't. It's almost like being in like midday, like a
on a clear
day.
night. It feels like it's like early dusk or dawn. You can see pretty well.
Yeah, damn well. I mean, everything's being bounced around. All that light's bounced around.
Yeah, actually, for you night owls, is a good possibility you might see northern lights tonight. So if you're out and about, look to the sky, you might see something spectacular.
Now, don't hold me to this, but I heard somewhere on Facebook somewhere that somebody said they're supposed to get up to 9 inches in the next couple of days. But I also heard it's supposed to start raining and get up to like 40s or 50s. So.
It seems like there's clouds coming our way right now in Michigan, but they don't know exactly what they're going to do. So I guess we'll have to see. If the clouds do come in, you won't be seeing the northern lights, obviously. But at any rate, the weather's got us down. It's been blistery cold outside. We've had obviously record snowfalls here in Flint. This is like the third highest snowfall recorded in 120 years or something like that. And that was following a hellistic ice storm that took power out for most residents in Genesee County. And I know a lot of our members down at the club are talking about power outages and so forth. About everybody and their brother had a generator going or was out to buy one. We've had our fair share of weather here in the last couple weeks in Michigan, and man, I'll be ready for spring.
I went out and bought one of those heaters that heats up with the you can put install right on your gas line.
Yeah.
And a space heater, and it doesn't require any thermostat setting because it knocks out the entire possibility of needing electricity. Because it's got a piezo starter, like niter. You push the little button.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I figured that would be cool, and it'd be warm. It'd keep me warm, and I guess I actually could heat your house up pretty sufficiently with that for like $40-$50 a month.
Wow, that's
for the
pretty
same
cool.
size area that I have to heat up. So I might be going to that instead of my furnace.
There you go. I've heard a lot about those, and also the infrared cooktops or the induction heat using. You have to have a certain kind of pan, like stainless steel or something like that. You can touch it with your hand; it won't burn you, but.
I was thinking about getting one. I saw those on TV, and this one is this heater is also it's gas powered, but it's infrared as well.
Okay.
It's infrared. It heats up like tiles.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it's going to be really warm, I guess, because it kicks out quite well. It's easy to install.
And efficient.
Safe. And it doesn't need a vent.
That's very important. We had a few people here suffer from carbon monoxide poisoning, running their generators inside their garages, making some bad choices there. I think there's a couple fatalities, unfortunately.
I think there's 3 or 4 that I've heard of, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. So, but hey, I mean, we'll get through this. We always do. It doesn't happen too often. Obviously, like you said, this is history-making weather here. So hopefully we'll get through it shortly. And in a couple months it'll be spring. It'll be over with. We'll be moving on to warmer, happier weather. But in the meantime, man, we've got some marijuana information that's been coming around the world. It's been an exciting time for medical marijuana patients and also marijuana in general. I'm sure as most of you have heard, Colorado has started their recreational marijuana sales as of January 1st. And from the reports, it's going gangbusters. There's been reports that numerous stores have already run out of their stock of cannabis. Sales have been over $1 million for the first week of cannabis sales, and they have a hefty tax that's associated to this, not just the state sales tax, but also an excise tax that is placed on the product itself. And so there's a good collection of that going on here. It looks like Colorado schools will be benefiting from this additional tax revenue generated. I think this is going to make some headway for other states around the nation. I think this is going to be a sort of trendsetter, if you will, for marijuana policies in the future. Obviously, Colorado being the first guinea pig out of the box here in this nation to set forth a policy for recreational sales. But at any rate, we'll keep a close eye on this. And it seems to me so far there's been no major issues. I guess there was lines up around the stores, many of the stores in the Denver area. No fights or anything outrageous broke out. There was a couple hoax stories that were ran in different publishing medias. I think one of them was, deaths related to marijuana, something along these lines. Some other ridiculous types of things have been put out there to try to calm down the positive vibes around this. But all in all, we found that those stories have turned out to be fake. And from the majority of what we've seen, that this is just a positive experience for most Coloradians, if you will.
No, do you think there's going to be a federal government backlash because the federal law hasn't changed yet?
It's a good question, John, and I'm really not too sure exactly. There hasn't been yet. I think Colorado's system is pretty well regulated. The law that they passed out there is very specific and detailed. They have a commission or a board set up just for the regulation of this product. So I don't think that the U.S. is on a federal level is going to step in and create havoc. I could see some issues coming in there with possible tax issues or maybe potentially some distribution issues. But I think all in all, one of the big concerns that other states are citing is, you've got states that surround Colorado, obviously, where marijuana is not legal, and trying to, deter the marijuana from going out of state. I think that's probably going to be one of the major issues that will be brought up in the future. But all in all, from the federal level, we haven't seen anything yet. We've seen a majority of these being operated pretty smoothly, professionally, just like you would any normal retail establishment. I hope that we could have a good policy here. Like I said, it's already generating quite a bit of revenue for the state. Obviously, it's putting a lot of jobs out there, which we could talk about that for quite a while. But if you look at the different stores that have opened up in and around Denver and around the rest of the state, and also all of the ancillary businesses that have popped up from this, gardening stores and different pot paraphernalia, things that have gone along with the use of it, certainly creating a lot of economy out there. And I think that that's where the real story is at. You've got over $1 million in sales generated in less than a week here for Colorado, and I think there's something to be said of that. Certainly, look at the taxes. Like I said, that's got to make a big difference. One of the other stories that I've noticed, since Colorado's gone through with this, is that it seems that there seems to be a rush going on around the country of other states stepping forward, either with potential recreational policies coming up for pot, or medical marijuana being the talk of the table in other states. We've had states like Kentucky, some of the states that you wouldn't expect necessarily, coming forward and saying, hey, state legislators introducing bills and whatnot for medical marijuana. And I think that also could be a big impact too. Having recreational be more accepted, or at least accepted now in one state, it would be likely that we'd see other states come forward with laws or bills to introduce medical policies so that people who want to use this for medical purposes would have the ability to do so. And I think that's a real positive thing there. We've got a lot of states out there that have fledgling programs that are still kind of waiting to get off the ground. Hopefully this will give them the go-ahead or the push that they need in order to make this happen for them. Another state that I have here to talk about is that New York is on the ballot here. They may have access to medical marijuana. The state governor, Andrew Cuomo, is possibly moving forward with plans to allow 20 hospitals across the state to prescribe marijuana for patients suffering from various conditions. And the list would be set by the Department of Health there in New York. It would likely be limited to severe debilitating illnesses. And rather than implementing new laws for medical marijuana, the governor has decided to rely on a provision passed back in 1980. So this provision was for that very purpose, but instead now actually using this provision. And like I said, this would be licensing certain hospitals to have prescriptions. I guess the question would be is where would the marijuana come from? That I can't answer for you. It says here that they may have more details to come. State officials are possibly preparing for an infrastructure that would allow for dispensing of marijuana at some point this year. So another big state, obviously New York, a trendsetter, leader in the nation in states stepping forward. And like I mentioned already, Kentucky was another one that stepped up in this last week and had a bill that was introduced by one of their state legislators. Kind of interesting. I think that this is going to be a continuance of the ball rolling that we've seen this last year, kind of the snowball, if you will, gaining momentum, getting bigger all the time. I think that this is a continuation of that. I guess one other subject I want to cover while around this topic is that there's some speculation as to what states next may have licensing for recreational purposes. I've got a list here that was posted on MPP's website. You can check that out at mpp.org. This marijuana policy project. Some of their states listed were Oregon, which looks like that might be a go in 2014. Alaska also looks likely. California, potentially, could be a bit of a long shot there, according to the write-up. And then we may see some legislative moves in some of the East Coast states like Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, potentially, Rhode Island, and also Massachusetts. These states here are all looking at different procedures or potentials for recreational marijuana in their states. Now, these states here, I just mentioned, these 5 states, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, they already have medical marijuana in place. They already have some decriminalization measures that have been passed, either statewide or citywide in some of their major cities. And so now we're looking to see if they're going to continue forward for the recreational policies, kind of similar to what Colorado had go on there. We've had some people ask, what do you think is going to happen here in Michigan for this next year? We still have some bills that are still being bounced around in the House that were continued on from the 2013 legislative session. One of those is the Provisioning Center bill. Another one is the Medable bill, if you will. Those are still on the table there in the House, or Michigan legislature, I should say, in the Senate. And they still need your support if you want to support those. They've already passed through the Michigan House legislature. And as you are probably already well aware of, Senate Bill 660 has now become a public act, and that is the pharmaceutical grade marijuana that has passed already and been signed into law by Governor Snyder. That would not be coming into effect unless the federal government actually reschedules marijuana down from its current, which is the Schedule 1 on the narcotics list, or Controlled Substances Act, if you will. So yeah, there's some things going on in Michigan. Will we see legalization here in Michigan? That I don't think so. The main things I would point to is that I don't see an effective campaign being mounted for that. There is some talk about it in the legislature. I've spoken to a couple different House representatives and Michigan senators that have said they have interest in seeing recreational marijuana being discussed at the legislative level. But will we see an actual bill get passed or law take place in Michigan? That remains yet to be seen. Certainly, I know there's a lot of support for it, but like I said, I think this is a snowball that's growing, and in Michigan here as well. Some medical information I want to get with you today on is there's a study that came out. This is from leafscience.com, and this is that scientists have brought new meaning to the term runner's high. And new findings suggest that exercise can activate the same pain-relieving pathways as marijuana. Euphoria and pain suppression that occur during high-intensity exercise were once believed to be the result of natural opioids called endorphins. But since the discovery of the endocannabinoid system in the mid-90s, evidence has pointed to natural marijuana-like molecules as the true explanation. Published in the journal Neuropharmacology, new findings from Brazil confirm the role of the endocannabinoid system in the exercise-induced pain relief. It says here, these results indicate that exercise could activate the endocannabinoid system, producing forgive me for not pronouncing this correctly, antinociception. That's the best as I'm going to get on that word. It says, in the study, rats that underwent high-intensity exercise showed greater tolerance for pain caused by changes in the CB1 receptors in the brain. CB1 receptors are activated by compounds in marijuana as well as naturally occurring cannabinoids such as anandamide. In either case, the activity of CB1 receptors have been shown to interfere with pain signaling at both the brain and spinal cord. Now, if you weren't aware of this, all invertebrates have CB receptors. So that means that you have a receptor inside of your spinal system, inside of your brain as well, that is meant to pick up cannabinoids. Now, you also have endocannabinoids, which is what your body produces, and these are similar compounds as to what's found inside of the cannabis plant. So your body actually produces cannabinoids, its own version of them, on its own, completely naturally. And then your CB receptors, such as like the CB1 that we were just talking about, pick those cannabinoids up and use them inside of your body. So, and in this study here, they're finding that activating that CB1 receptor through high-intensity exercise can help relieve pain. Now, we found this to be the case that people who supplement those endocannabinoids with cannabinoids have also been able to fight pain, and that's what this article here is drawing the similarities to, is the use of cannabis as an external form, and similar to the effect of exercise, but having that same ability to help relieve some of that pain that people experience. So, kind of interesting there. All right, I got another article for you, and this is something we've seen a lot of lately. If you've been paying attention, this is very good information, and I think we're going to see more of this in the future, especially as we get to have more and more research be released. This is CBD, or cannabidiol, which is a form of cannabis, obviously a form of the medication. It's a compound that's in cannabis. And this study here says it shows promise as a treatment for a variety of cancers. And now, for the first time, researchers have found that cannabis-rich in CBD can slow the progress of colon cancer in live animal models. It says here, using a botanical extract made from high CBD cannabis, researchers from Italy and the UK were able to reduce pre-cancerous lesions and tumor growth in mice with colon cancer. The results, which were released last month in the journal Phytomedicine, also suggest that cannabis extract can selectively target colon cancer cells while leaving healthy cells unharmed. Both CB1 and CB2 pathways seem to facilitate its effects. It says, in conclusion, we have shown that CBD, BDS, which stands for Botanical Drug Substance, exerts beneficial actions in experimental models of colon cancer and anti-proliferative CB1 and CB2 mediated effects in colorectal cancer cells. It says here, the authors believe that the results could have clinical relevance for the use of cannabis-based medicines in cancer patients. And since current colon cancer treatments are very toxic and still fail to prevent disease progression in some patients. So this is kind of very cool. We've seen other studies, and we've featured them on this program before, about how CBD is a cancer-fighting property, how it's been used to, in various studies, used to fight different types of cancer cells. This one here directly being used to show benefits in fighting colon cancer specifically. It says here that the can also be used to directly treat cancer, and cannabis-based medicine used to stimulate appetite, reduce nausea, and relieve pain in patients with cancer. So not only is it just good for relieving the effects of cancer and the other types of ailments that come along with that disease, but also actually fighting the cancer itself. And it says here that this study was funded through GW Pharmaceuticals. So again, I'm sure this goes along with their studies that they've conducted for the product we've talked about on this program before, Epidiolex, which is a CBD-based spray that's taken orally, similar to the Sativex, which is a THC and CBD mixture. So very, very cool stuff there. I got to say that as a Genesee County Compassion Club member, that we have seen quite a few of our members come in and use variant forms of cannabis, whether it be the flower form, different types of extracts like the Rick Simpson oil, and other forms as well to treat their cancer, whether it be colon, prostate, skin, so on and so forth. And we have seen positive results. I don't think there's any reason that we could say that this evidence here from GW Pharmaceuticals is anything but truthful and I believe that if anything, they're probably holding back information and not telling us everything or as amazing as it is, simply because of the results we've seen from our members at the club. But at any rate, kind of interesting there. It's good to see the information come out from a reputable source, something that's going to be respected by other health professionals in the industry. And I think that's a positive thing when it comes to medical marijuana. All right, I got another story here I want to share with you. This is, again, from leafscience.com. It's 10 reasons why doctors support medical marijuana. Number one, it says here, marijuana has been used as medicine for 3,000 years. I think most of us have heard that one before. It's been traced to ancient civilizations in China, India, Egypt. One of the earliest pieces of evidence is a book written by Chinese Emperor Shen Nung in 2737 BCE, which described the benefits of cannabis in treating constipation, gout, rheumatism, and absent-mindedness. Interesting. So, obviously, number one there, it's been used for a long time. So that's why one of the reasons that doctors are now starting to support medical marijuana. Other reason number two here, American Medical Association supports medical marijuana and its use in research. It says here, while Prohibition was passed in 1937, the AMA was one of the only voices of opposition. So, and that is true even on the Controlled Substances Act. When marijuana was listed in the 1970s Controlled Substances Act that our federal government instituted, AMA stood up, and along with a few other organizations, and said, hey, marijuana shouldn't be on this list, but that was ignored. At any rate, they still support its use for medical purposes, and I think it helps out with having other doctors be willing to stand up and prescribe it or at least support it. Number three, the high is only from one component, and we've known this component to be THC. However, there's 400 other compounds in medical marijuana besides THC, and over 60 of them which have been identified as cannabinoids. And we're starting to find out more and more about these other types of cannabinoids and their medical benefits, such as CBD, the one that we just talked about. There's other ones included, such as CBG, which is cannabigerol, and also THCA, which is the tetrahydrocannabinolic acid. And these have all been extracted from cannabis, and they all produce non-psychoactive effects and are being used for different various medical ailments. Moving on here, number four, these are reasons doctors are starting to support medical marijuana. Number four, our body contains a natural cannabinoid system that regulates health and illness. This is what we were just talking about. This is the endocannabinoid system. You have the receptors in your body, but then you also have in the natural process of your body chemicals that mimic the activity of cannabis, and we call those endocannabinoids. All right, number five, smoking or vaporizing marijuana is better for pain relief. It says, although some believe there are better methods for smoking or better methods than smoking or vaporizing, there's a doctor that argues it could be ideal for those in pain. Oral ingestion of cannabis provides longer lasting relief, but also takes about an hour to achieve effect. Patients in pain usually require more immediate action, which smoked or vaporized marijuana does provide. And it usually takes about 10 minutes for the onset of those effects to take effect. Whereas, like we were talking about, eating does take longer. It has to go through the digestive system. It can be a more complete use of the plant. You obviously would get more out of it by orally ingesting it versus smoking or vaporizing. However, it takes longer to have its onset, and also can be a little bit more difficult to dose, if you will. We don't want to have patients taking too much and causing things like paranoia. But if a patient wants to moderate their use, smoking or vaporizing can be an easier way to do so. All right, number six, marijuana may be superior to narcotic painkillers for neuropathy or nerve pain. While opioid painkillers are incredibly potent and can work wonders for certain types of pain, they are much less effective in cases of nerve pain. In studies, marijuana performs just as well as gabapentin, a leading pharmaceutical used to treat neuropathy. Also, Dr. Ald notes that whereas narcotics commonly increase nausea and vomiting, marijuana relieves those symptoms. I think we've talked extensively about marijuana's use over typical opioid painkillers. All right, number 7. When combined, marijuana can decrease the amount of narcotics needed for pain relief. So this kind of goes along with the number 6 reasoning why doctors are starting to support medical marijuana. But this is something that I think more doctors should take a look at. We had a concerned member call into our club about a week ago, and he said his doctor had found out, he was honest with his doctor, told him that he had been using medical marijuana, but he had also been receiving from his doctor a prescription for Vicodin. And upon his physician learning of his medical marijuana use, the physician decided to drop this patient, said he'd no longer treat him, would not give him his prescriptions, and would have to find a new doctor. And I think that this is an uninformed physician, and hopefully information like this can help get them up to speed. Studies are now suggesting that marijuana can reduce the need for prescription painkillers when given together. The popularity of painkillers has led to a rise in accidental overdoses in the U.S., with opioids claiming over 16,000 lives in 2010 alone. But by reducing the need for high doses, medical marijuana offers a promising solution for doctors and patients. And I think that we need to see more studies when we're combining these two types of painkillers, and that way hopefully doctors will feel more comfortable in continuing to treat patients through normal treatment methods along with using medical marijuana. All right, number 8. The main side effect of marijuana is euphoria or extreme feelings of well-being. So this is the main side effect that goes along. It's the high that's associated with marijuana. And with all the other side effects that we hear about nowadays for prescription-type medications, this one here has got to be one of the least damaging for sure. A lot of doctors are concerned about, the high that's associated with this drug. Considering, having your liver shut down or having your heart stop or dying in your sleep or something like that, like other medications that we hear about on the TV all the time, this one here has got to be one of the most minimal side effects out there. Obviously, it's a good thing not having those other serious side effects associated with marijuana. All right, number 9. Again, these are reasons why doctors are now prescribing or starting to feel more positive about medical marijuana. Number 9, highly addictive. Unlike highly addictive narcotic painkillers, marijuana has the same addictive potential as caffeine. Even when compared to common recreational drugs, studies have ranked marijuana among the least addictive. A study conducted by NIDA, which is the National Institute for Drug, I forget the last part of it. Same group that actually issues medical marijuana for the federal government. NIDA researchers concluded that 9% of people who ever try marijuana will become addicted to it at some point, which is similar to caffeine. On the other hand, the same study found an addictive potential of 15% for alcohol and 32% for tobacco. And we know that marijuana does not have a physically addictive trait to it. It's the mental that we have to be concerned with. I can speak from experience and from many other people's testimony that marijuana is definitely not addictive, certainly when compared to other drugs such like caffeine, tobacco, alcohol, and so forth. All right, and number 10, final here. This is top 10 reasons doctors are starting to feel more positive about marijuana. Number 10 here, marijuana is being studied as treatment for tumors and various forms of cancer treatment. This is something we just went over. Obviously, I think we're going to see a lot more of this. Study here from LeafScience.com shows, in fact, compounds in marijuana have shown anti-tumor and anti-cancer effects in numerous animal models, particularly in brain and skin tumors, Dr. Ald writes, but also in lung cancer, lymphoma, and colon cancer. And of course, we have seen more clinical trials being run, especially by the company GW Pharmaceuticals, and we're going to see more and more of those studies take place here in the year 2014. Some of these are going to be from pharmaceutical companies, some of these are going to be from universities like we've seen in the past, but at any rate, more and more studies are coming out, seems like almost every day, confirming that marijuana is beneficial for medicinal purposes and is an effective cancer treatment. So Kind of interesting here. Definitely, it's good to see that we have more doctors supporting marijuana. I believe that this snowball that's coming across the country here is going to continue to grow. And as we have more legitimized studies, more physicians, I think, are going to feel more comfortable in making that recommendation. So, all right. See if there's anything else here I want to cover with you this week. Did you happen to see that the first purchase in Colorado was a PTSD person? Kind of interesting there. This is one of the conditions that we turned down here in Michigan to add as far as a qualifying factor for medical marijuana. And so now, being that they don't have to have a recommendation from the doctor, people in Colorado there, the first person was a war veteran, actually, who has PTSD. His man was a 32-year-old man named Sean Azariti. He bought recreational marijuana to treat his PTSD, and he said that that's because state and federal law doesn't allow medical marijuana for his condition. So, I think there are some benefits to having legalization, even for medicinal purposes, for the people who couldn't use it on other means. And I think it's neat to see this guy be able to get something, to be able to use it for medicinal purposes, even though it was under a recreational law. Kind of cool. All right. Let's see. I think we've got... that's about it for what we've got as far as news and information out there. I know things have been happening and going well down at the Compassion Club, so feel free to join us down there. We still have our late nights on Friday from 6 to 9 p.m., and we've been active this last month. We had our soup kitchen go on right in there between Christmas and New Year's. We also had a couple different families we were able to help out this Christmas. We partook in helping out one of the local churches and providing some meals for Christmas families this year. Just a lot of good-hearted, good-natured events happening by our members down at the Compassion Club. And also, in between the Christmas and New Year's, actually I think it was right before Christmas, our club reached 10,000 members. So also another milestone for us, and an exciting one at that. But we couldn't do it without our membership, without all of our people teaming up down there and continue to work together as a family and trying to make this community a better place. So I just really want to say thank you to everybody out there for helping out and continuing, and for being a part of this. And we couldn't do it without you. And I think that if we can continue to do this, we'll continue to have positive impacts in our community. And it's certainly just a wonderful thing to be able to participate with, and to be able to see these families have benefits from this. Not just the families that are involved in the medical marijuana, but the ones that we reach out to in the community, like at the soup kitchen and through our other charitable works that we've been doing. So thank you very much to our members for helping us, for making that a possibility. Thank you to John for being down here. Appreciate you coming out on this cold, blistery day. And guys, hope you stay warm this next week. Take care of your plants. And we'll catch you here next week on Flint Talk Radio and Ustream.tv. Thanks a lot.